You're not sad, you're not broken. You're not dramatic, you feel empty. And what makes it harder is that you can't explain it. Nothing terrible is happening, nothing is technically wrong. But something inside you went quiet, and you don't know when it happened. Or why. You just know that you're here, going through the motions, doing what you're supposed to do, but not really feeling any of it. Not the good things, not the bad things, just nothing. And that nothingness is its own kind of pain, because at least sadness is something. At least anger is alive, but this is the absence, the hollow. The place where feelings used to be, and no one around you can see it, because you still smile. You still show up, you still function, but inside you're somewhere else. Somewhere quiet, somewhere far away. This book is not here to force happiness. It's not here to tell you to be grateful, or to count your blessings, or to snap out of it. This book is here to sit with you, long enough for something real to come back. Not because you forced it, but because you finally had space to feel it. Stay. Even if it feels uncomfortable, even if your mind wants to leave, even if you think nothing will help. Stay, because something inside you is trying to speak, and it's been waiting a long time to be heard. Part I naming the emptiness. Chapter 1. This is not depression yet. Emptiness comes before collapse. That's why it's easy to miss. It doesn't look like what you expect. You're not crying. You're not unable to get out of bed. You're not visibly struggling. You're just flat. Going through your days like you're watching them happen to someone else. This is the in-between space, the place before things get bad enough to name. Before anyone notices, before you can justify asking for help. Because technically you're fine. You're functioning, you're getting things done. But you're not really here, and that's the difference between sadness and emptiness. Sadness is heavy, it weighs on you. You feel it in your chest, in your throat, behind your eyes. It's present, painful but present. Emptiness is different. It's the absence of weight. The absence of feeling. It's not that you feel bad. It's that you don't feel much of anything. Joy doesn't land. Excitement doesn't register. Even pain feels distant. Like it's happening behind glass. You know it's there. But you can't quite reach it, and so you keep moving. You go to work. You answer messages. You have conversations. But you're not really participating, you're performing. Going through the script, saying the right things, laughing at the right moments. While inside there's just quiet. This is why you still function but feel disconnected. Because disconnection doesn't stop you from doing things. It just stops you from feeling them. You can be productive and empty, busy and hollow, present and absent, all at the same time. And people don't see it, because you've gotten good at hiding it. Maybe even from yourself, you tell yourself you're just tired, just stressed, just going through a phase. But deep down, you know it's more than that. You know something shifted. Something went offline. And you can't remember exactly when. This is the early signal most people ignore. The quiet withdrawal, the gradual fading of color, the slow dimming of everything that used to feel bright. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with a crash. It seeps in. Slowly, steadily, until one day you realize, I can't remember the last time I felt anything fully, and that realization itself feels distant. Like it's happening to someone else, like you're observing your own life from far away. This is not depression yet, but it's the edge of it, the quiet place before the fall, and recognizing it now matters, because emptiness is a signal. A message from somewhere deep inside, telling you something needs to change, not externally, but internally. Something needs space, attention, release. And until that happens, the emptiness will stay, not because you're broken, but because you're human, and humans can only hold so much before they start to go numb. Chapter 2. When nothing feels real. You're present but not inside yourself. You're sitting in a room. You can see the walls, hear the sounds, feel the chair beneath you, but you're not really there. You're somewhere else, somewhere far away, watching yourself from a distance. This is emotional numbness, and it's more common than anyone talks about. It's not dramatic, it's not visible, it's just absence. The absence of connection, the absence of sensation, the absence of being fully here. You go through the motions, you respond when spoken to, you nod at the right times. But inside there's a layer of separation. Between you and the world, between you and other people, between you and your own life. Everything feels muted. Sounds are there, but they don't quite reach you. Colors are there, but they don't move you. Conversations happen, but they don't touch you. It's like living behind a pane of glass. You can see out, but you can't feel through. And the worst part, joy doesn't register anymore. Not the way it used to. You can recognize that something is supposed to be happy. A celebration, a success, a beautiful moment. And you know intellectually that you should feel something. But when you reach for the feeling, it's not there. Just a faint echo. A memory of what joy used to feel like, but not the feeling itself. This is the quiet fading of sensation. It doesn't happen all at once. It's gradual, imperceptible, like the slow dimming of a light you don't notice until you're sitting in near darkness. First, the big joys fade. The ones you used to look forward to. Celebrations feel flat, achievements feel empty. Moments you thought would bring relief just don't. And you think, maybe I'm just tired, maybe I'm just overwhelmed, maybe it'll come back. But it doesn't, and then the small joys start to fade too. The morning coffee that used to feel comforting, the song that used to lift you, the conversation that used to make you laugh, they're all still there. But they don't reach you. You're going through the experience without experiencing it. And the strangest part is how normal it starts to feel. You forget what it was like to be moved by things, to be excited, to feel anticipation, to feel anything fully. You adjust to the numbness. It becomes your baseline. And you stop noticing how far away you've drifted until someone asks you how you're doing, and you realize you don't know. Because you haven't been checking in. You haven't been feeling, you've just been existing, moving through time without really inhabiting it. This is what happens when nothing feels real, not because you've lost touch with reality, but because you've lost touch with yourself, with the part of you that feels, that responds, that's alive. It's still there, somewhere underneath the numbness. But it's buried under layers of protection, under exhaustion, under the quiet belief that it's safer not to feel. Because if you don't feel the good things, you also don't feel the bad things. And maybe that seems easier for a while, until you realize not feeling anything is its own kind of suffering. Chapter 3. You didn't lose yourself overnight. You disappeared slowly while being strong. This didn't happen suddenly. There was no single moment, no breaking point you can point to. It was gradual. A slow erosion, a quiet fading that happened while you were busy surviving. You were strong. You held it together. You kept going when things got hard. You didn't fall apart. You didn't break down. You stayed functional, reliable, present. But that strength came at a cost. Because being strong often means not feeling. It means pushing things down, setting them aside, telling yourself you'll deal with it later. When there's time, when things calm down, when you're not so busy, but later never comes. Things never calm down. And you never stop being busy, so the feelings stay buried. The exhaustion stays unacknowledged, the needs stay unmet. And slowly, without you noticing, you start to disappear. Not all at once, but piece by piece. First, you lose touch with your wants. You stop knowing what you actually desire because it's been so long since anyone asked. So long since it mattered. So long since you had the energy to want anything beyond just getting through the day. Then you lose touch with your needs. You stop recognizing when you're hungry, when you're tired, when you're overwhelmed. You override the signals. You push through. You tell yourself you're fine. And eventually, your body stops sending the signals. Because you stopped listening, then you lose touch with your feelings. You can't name what you feel anymore. Everything just blurs together. Stress, exhaustion, numbness, all of it becomes background noise. Something you carry but don't examine, because examining it would mean stopping, and stopping would mean feeling, and feeling would mean falling apart. So you don't. You keep moving. You keep being strong, and the emptiness grows. This is how long-term stress erodes feeling. Not dramatically, but steadily, like water wearing down stone. You don't notice it happening. You just notice one day that something is missing. That you're not who you used to be. That the person you were, the one who felt things deeply, who cared, who had energy, who had presence, is gone. And you don't know where they went. But here's the truth. They didn't leave. They just went underground, into survival mode. The mode that keeps you alive but not living. The mode that keeps you functioning but not feeling. The mode that looks like stability from the outside but feels like emptiness on the inside. This is survival mode disguised as stability, and it's convincing. Because you're not falling apart. You're not missing work. You're not neglecting your responsibilities. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. But you're doing it without presence, without connection, without any sense of callousness. You're a machine, going through the motions. Efficient, reliable, empty. And here's why strong people feel empty first: because they don't break. They don't collapse. They don't let themselves fall apart when things get hard. They absorb it. They carry it. They keep going. And all that strength, all that resilience, all that holding it together, it requires disconnection. From yourself, from your feelings, from your needs. Because if you stayed connected, you couldn't keep carrying it all. You'd have to stop. You'd have to ask for help. You'd have to admit that you're overwhelmed. And strong people don't do that, or at least, they don't think they can, so they disconnect instead. And the disconnection becomes emptiness. Not because they're weak, but because they've been strong for too long. Without rest, without release, without anyone holding space for them to not be okay. And now here you are, empty. Not because you failed, but because you succeeded at surviving. And survival was never supposed to be permanent. It was always meant to be temporary. A bridge, a way through. But you've been on that bridge so long you forgot there was solid ground on the other side. And now you're ready to find it. Part 7: How Emptiness is Created. Chapter 4: Living on Autopilot. Autopilot keeps you alive but not connected. You wake up, same time, same routine, coffee, shower, dressed, out the door. You move through your morning without thinking, because you've done it 1,000 times before. And thinking would take energy you don't have. So you don't. You just move from one task to the next, checking boxes, completing steps, going through the sequence. This is autopilot, and it's useful. It lets you function when you're exhausted. It lets you keep going when you have nothing left. It's survival. But it's also disconnection, because when you're on autopilot, you're not present. You're not choosing, you're not feeling, you're just doing. And over time, doing becomes all you know. The routines that were meant to support you start to replace you. You stop making decisions, you just follow the pattern. The same breakfast, the same commute, the same conversations, the same evening routine. Day after day, week after week, until suddenly you can't remember the last time you did something because you wanted to. Not because you had to, not because it was part of the routine, but because it brought you joy. This is how routines replace presence. They become the structure you live inside, the container that holds you. But containers can become cages, and when your entire life is routine, there's no room for spontaneity. No room for discovery, no room for the unexpected moment that might actually make you feel something. And so the days blur together. Monday feels like Wednesday. This week feels like last week. This month feels like the last 6 months. Because nothing is different. Nothing is new. Nothing breaks the pattern. You're moving through time. But time isn't moving through you. It's just passing. Unmarked, unremarkable, empty. This is why days blur together. Not because you're forgetting them, but because there's nothing to remember. No moment that stands out. No feeling that registered. No experience that touched you. Just the routine over and over, until life becomes flat, not painful, just flat. Like a landscape without variation, no hills, no valleys, just an endless plain stretching out in every direction. And you're walking across it, one step after another, getting nowhere. feeling nothing. This is when life feels flat, not painful. And in some ways, flat is harder, because pain at least tells you you're alive. Pain demands attention. It forces you to stop, to feel, to respond. But flatness just is. It doesn't demand anything. It doesn't interrupt. It doesn't even hurt. It just sits there. Heavy and dull, like a weight you've gotten so used to carrying that you don't even notice it anymore. Until someone asks you what brings you joy, and you can't answer because you can't remember. Not because you don't have joys, but because joy requires presence, and you haven't been present in a long time. You've been on autopilot, and autopilot doesn't feel. It just operates. Efficiently, reliably, emptily. And now you're starting to realize this isn't living. This is just not dying, and there's a difference. A big one. Living requires presence, choice, feeling, connection. And you've been so far from all of that you forgot it was even possible. But it is. And recognizing that you're on autopilot is the first step to turning it off. Not all at once, not perfectly, but slowly. One moment of presence at a time, one choice that's actually yours, one feeling that breaks through the flat. Until gradually the days stop blurring, and life stops feeling like a routine you're trapped in, and becomes something you're actually living again. Chapter 5. Emotional suppression you learn to call maturity. You didn't heal. You learned to contain. Somewhere along the way, you learned that feelings were inconvenient. That they got in the way, that they made you difficult. Dramatic, too much, so you learned to manage them. To control them, to keep them quiet. And people praised you for it. They called you mature, responsible, level-headed. They said you handled things well, that you didn't let emotions get the better of you, that you kept your composure. And you believed them. You thought you were doing the right thing, being the right way. Evolving into someone who didn't fall apart. But here's what no one told you: containing emotions is not the same as processing them. Staying calm is not the same as being okay. And maturity that comes from suppression isn't maturity at all. It's just learned silence. Because real emotional maturity means feeling your feelings fully and still choosing how to respond. It means acknowledging what's there without being controlled by it. It means honoring your experience while also considering others. But that's not what you learned. You learned to not feel at all. To push it down, to lock it away, to smile and say you're fine, even when you weren't. This is why emotions were never processed, because processing requires feeling. It requires letting the emotion move through you, acknowledging it, expressing it even if just to yourself, releasing it. But you couldn't do that, because expressing emotion felt like losing control, and losing control felt dangerous. So you held it in, you swallowed it. You told yourself it wasn't that big of a deal. That you were overreacting, that other people had it worse, that you should be grateful, that you should be stronger. And slowly you became someone who didn't feel, or at least someone who didn't let themselves feel. This is the cost of being reasonable, of being the person who doesn't make waves, who doesn't cause problems, Who doesn't need anything? The cost is you, your inner world, your emotional truth, your ability to know what you actually feel. Because when you spend years suppressing your emotions, you lose touch with them. You stop being able to name what you feel. Everything just becomes fine or not fine. There's no nuance, no specificity, no connection to the actual emotion underneath. You're just disconnected from yourself, from your experience, from the very thing that makes you human. And now you're wondering, where did the feelings go? They didn't disappear. They're still there. Buried, locked away, waiting. In your body, in your chest, in your throat, in the tension you carry in your shoulders, in the heaviness you can't explain, in the emptiness you feel even though nothing is technically wrong. The feelings are there. You just learn not to listen to them. You learn to override them, to function despite them, to keep going no matter what. And for a while that worked. It kept you moving. It kept you stable. It kept you from falling apart. But it also kept you from living, because life is not just about not falling apart. It's about being present, being connected, being real. And you can't be any of those things when you're suppressing half of your experience. When you're pretending you don't feel what you feel. When you're calling disconnection maturity. It's not maturity, it's survival. And survival is exhausting. It's why you feel empty now. Not because you don't have feelings, but because you've been holding them so tightly for so long that you can't feel them anymore. They're there, locked inside, taking up space, creating pressure, but you're not letting them out. You're not letting them move. You're not letting them be. And that's the problem. Because emotions are meant to move. That's what the word means. Emotion, energy in motion, they're supposed to flow through you, not stay trapped inside. And when they can't move, they stagnate. They become numbness, heaviness, emptiness. Not because the feeling is gone, but because it has nowhere to go. And you've been living like this for so long. You forgot there was another way, but there is. And it starts with acknowledgement, with admitting that you haven't been okay, that you've been holding too much, that the maturity you were praised for was actually disconnection, and that it's okay to let that go now. It's okay to feel again. Even if it's messy, even if it's inconvenient, even if it makes you less reasonable. Because reasonable people can still be empty, and you don't want to be empty anymore. You want to be real, and real means feeling all of it. Chapter 6. The exhaustion beneath the emptiness. Emptiness is often tiredness that went too far. You've been tired for a long time. Not just sleepy, not just physically worn out, but tired in a way that goes deeper. Into your bones, into your mind, into your soul. You wake up tired. You go through the day tired. You go to bed tired. And sleep doesn't help. Because this isn't the kind of tired that rest fixes. This is emotional fatigue, and it's different. Physical tiredness is straightforward. You exert yourself, your muscles ache, your body needs rest, you sleep, you recover. But emotional fatigue doesn't work that way. It's not about how much you've done. It's about how much you've carried. And you can carry a lot without moving at all. You've been carrying worry, carrying responsibility, carrying other people's emotions, carrying expectations, carrying the weight of being strong, of being reliable, of being the one who doesn't fall apart. And all of that takes energy, not physical energy, emotional energy. The kind that doesn't replenish with a good night's sleep. The kind that needs something deeper. Something you haven't given yourself yet. This is why rest doesn't help yet. Because you're resting your body, but not your mind. Not your heart. You lie down, but you're still carrying everything. Still thinking about what needs to be done. Still worrying about what could go wrong. Still holding tension in places you don't even realize. Your body is still, but you're not. And so you wake up just as tired as when you went to bed. Maybe more tired, because you spent the night holding on instead of letting go. This is the weight you've been carrying silently. The weight no one sees. The weight that doesn't show up on the outside. You still smile. You still function. You still get things done. But inside you're exhausted, in a way that feels endless, like you'll never catch up. Never recover, never feel light again. And that exhaustion, when it goes on long enough, becomes emptiness, because you don't have the energy to feel anymore. Feeling requires presence, attention, engagement, and you're too tired for any of that, so you shut down. Not consciously, not as a choice, but as a survival mechanism. Your system saying, I can't handle one more thing. Not one more feeling, not one more demand, not one more anything. And so it stops receiving, it goes numb, it empties out. Not because the feelings aren't there, but because you're too exhausted to hold them. This is what people don't understand about emptiness. They think it's sadness, or depression, or a lack of gratitude. But often it's just exhaustion, deep, unacknowledged, relentless exhaustion. The kind that comes from caring too much for too long, from holding too much for too long, from being strong for too long without anyone holding you, and now you're empty. Not because you're broken, but because you're depleted, and depletion doesn't respond to motivation or positivity or trying harder. It responds to rest. Real rest, the kind that lets you put everything down. Not just your body, but your mind. Your worry, your responsibility, your need to hold it all together. The kind of rest that says you don't have to be strong right now. You don't have to manage anything. You don't have to be okay. You can just be. Tired, empty, human. And that's enough. Because acknowledging the exhaustion is the first step to releasing it. And releasing it is the first step to feeling again. Part II, making space for feeling again. Chapter 7. Why forcing joy doesn't work. You can't feel joy through pressure. You've tried. Haven't you? You've tried to make yourself happy, to focus on the positive, to count your blessings, to remember all the good things in your life. And maybe for a moment it worked. You felt a flicker of something, a brief lightness, but then it faded. And you were back to empty, wondering what's wrong with you. Why you can't just be happy. Why gratitude doesn't work. why you can't seem to feel what you're supposed to feel. But here's the truth: joy is not something you can force. It's not something you achieve through effort or manufacture through positive thinking. Joy is a response. It arises naturally when conditions are right. When you feel safe, when you feel connected, when you feel present. But when those conditions aren't there, no amount of trying will create it. You can't think your way into joy when your nervous system is exhausted. You can't force happiness when you're still carrying too much. You can't be grateful your way out of emptiness. Because gratitude requires capacity. And right now you don't have any. You're depleted, running on empty. And asking yourself to feel joy in that state is like asking a plant to bloom in the middle of winter. It's not happening. Not because the plant is broken, but because the conditions aren't right. This is toxic positivity explained gently. It's the belief that you should be able to feel good if you just try hard enough, if you just think the right thoughts, if you just focus on the right things. But that belief ignores what's actually happening inside you. It ignores the exhaustion, the depletion, the emptiness. It treats joy like a choice, when really it's an emergence, something that comes when you're ready, when you're rescued, when you're safe enough to feel it. And right now, you're not. Right now, you're in survival mode. And survival mode doesn't have room for joy. It's too busy keeping you upright. This is why gratitude doesn't reach numbness. Because numbness is not about what you're thinking. It's about what you're feeling, or rather, what you're not feeling. And no amount of mental reframing changes that. You can list 100 things you're grateful for, and intellectually you know they're true. You know you have things to be thankful for. But knowing and feeling are not the same thing. And when you're known, the knowing doesn't reach the feeling. It stays in your head. Logical, reasonable, disconnected. While your heart stays empty, what actually works is different. It's not gratitude, it's not positivity. It's not forcing yourself to feel something you don't. It's safety. Safety before sensation, always. Because your nervous system will not let you feel joy when it doesn't feel safe. It won't let you open. Won't let you soften. Won't let you be vulnerable enough to receive anything good. Not because it's punishing you, but because it's protecting you. Because in its assessment, joy is a risk. Opening is a risk. Feeling anything is a risk. And it's not wrong. Because you've been hurt before, disappointed before, let down before. And your system remembers. It remembers that feeling leads to pain. That hoping leads to disappointment. That opening leads to being hurt, so it stays closed. Numb, protected, even though protection has become prison. This is where you are now, in that space between wanting to feel and being afraid to, between knowing you should be happy and not being able to access it. And the way out is not through more effort. It's through less. Less trying, less forcing, less pressure. And more permission. Permission to not be okay. Permission to not feel joy right now. Permission to be exactly where you are without shame. Because shame is just more pressure. And pressure is what's keeping you empty. So instead of forcing joy, you create space. Space for whatever is actually there. Exhaustion, numbness, grief, anger, whatever it is. You let it be. Without judgment, without needing to fix it, without needing to rush past it to get to something better. You just let it exist, and in that allowing, something shifts. Not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually, your nervous system starts to relax, because you're not fighting anymore. You're not demanding that it be different, you're just here with what is. And that presence, that simple, non-judging presence is what creates safety. And safety is what allows feeling to return. Not joy first, but feeling. Any feeling. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's painful. Because feeling anything is better than feeling nothing. And once feeling returns, joy becomes possible again. Not through force, but through emergence. Natural, organic, real. Chapter 8. Letting sensation return slowly. Feeling comes back in whispers, not waves. When you've been numb for a long time, you might expect the return of feeling to be dramatic. A sudden rush of emotion, a breaking open. A flood of everything you've been holding back. But that's not usually how it happens. More often, feeling returns quietly, subtly. In small, almost imperceptible ways. A moment where you notice the warmth of the sun on your skin. A song that makes you pause just for a second. A conversation where you feel something stir, even if you can't name it. These are whispers, and they're easy to miss, because they're not loud. They're not obvious, they don't announce themselves. They just appear. For a moment, and then they're gone. And you might think that was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was something, the first something in a long time. And that matters. This is why emotions return subtly. Because your system is testing the waters. Seeing if it's safe to feel, seeing if you'll notice, seeing if you'll reject it or allow it. And if you allow it, if you notice the whisper and don't push it away, another one will come, and then another. Until slowly the whispers become more frequent, more present, more real. But this takes time. And it takes attention, because if you're waiting for the big moment, you'll miss the small ones, and the small ones are where healing happens. This is how to notice without chasing. You stay present, you pay attention. But you don't force it. You don't grasp at the feeling trying to make it stay. You just notice it. Oh, I felt something just then. That's it. No analysis, no judgment, no pressure to feel it more or make it mean something. Just acknowledgement, I felt something, and then you let it go. Because chasing feeling is just another form of pressure. And pressure is what shut you down in the first place. So instead you create space. You stay open, you notice when something stirs. And you let it be exactly what it is. Brief, subtle, incomplete. That's okay. Because you're not trying to feel everything at once. You're just trying to feel something, anything. And every small moment of sensation is proof that you're coming back. That the numbness is not permanent, that there's still something alive inside you. Even if it's quiet right now, these are the first signs of recognition. A moment of genuine laughter, even if it's fleeting. A moment of sadness that actually reaches you. A moment of irritation that feels sharp and clear. These things might not seem like progress, especially the uncomfortable ones. But they are, because feeling something, even something uncomfortable, means you're not numb anymore. You're present, you're alive, you're here. And that's everything, because from here you can build. You can notice more, feel more, connect more, but it starts with the whispers. With the small, quiet moments where sensation breaks through the numbness. And you don't dismiss them. You don't minimize them. You don't tell yourself it's not enough. You just receive them. With gratitude, with gentleness, with the understanding that this is how healing happens. Not all at once, but slowly, one whisper at a time, until the whispers become voices. And the voices become presence, and presence becomes life. Real life, felt life, connected life. And you realize I'm coming back, not to who I was, but to who I am. Underneath the numbness, underneath the exhaustion, underneath the emptiness, there's still someone here. Still feeling, still alive, still real. And that someone is you. Chapter 9. Your nervous system needs permission. Your body won't open until it feels safe. You can want to feel again. You can be ready to feel again. You can know intellectually that you need to feel again. But none of that matters if your nervous system doesn't agree, because your nervous system is not governed by logic. It's governed by signal, by sensation, by the felt sense of whether or not it's safe to let go. And right now it doesn't feel safe. It feels threatened. Not by external danger, but by internal overwhelm, by the possibility that if you let yourself feel, you'll be flooded, that you won't be able to handle it, that you'll fall apart. And falling apart feels dangerous, so your nervous system stays closed, guarded, protected, even though you're the one asking it to open. Because it doesn't trust yet. It needs proof. Proof that opening won't lead to overwhelm, that feeling won't lead to collapse, that it's safe to let the guard down. And that proof doesn't come from thinking. It comes from experience, from small moments where you feel something and don't fall apart. Where you let something in and it doesn't destroy you. Where you soften and nothing bad happens. This is why safety is the foundation of feeling, not gratitude, not positivity, not willpower. Safety, the deep embodied knowing that you're okay, that you can handle what comes, that you won't be abandoned if you're not perfect, that you won't be overwhelmed if you feel. And that safety is built slowly. Through presence, through gentleness, through moments where you prove to yourself, again and again, I can feel this and be okay. I can let this in and survive. I can soften and not collapse. This is the work, not forcing yourself to feel, but creating the conditions where feeling becomes possible. And those conditions are built on one thing: less pressure. Because pressure is what shut you down in the first place. The pressure to be okay. To be strong, to hold it together, to not need anything, to not be too much. That pressure told your nervous system, it's not safe to feel, it's not safe to need, it's not safe to be vulnerable. You have to stay closed, you have to stay controlled, you have to stay numb. And your nervous system listened. It did exactly what it was trained to do. It protected you by shutting you down. And now, to reopen, you need the opposite signal. You need to release the pressure, to let yourself be imperfect, to let yourself need things, to let yourself be vulnerable. Without punishment, without shame, without the fear that you'll be abandoned or overwhelmed. This is why nothing changes until pressure drops. Because as long as you're under pressure, your system stays in protection mode. It has to. It can't afford to feel. It can't afford to open. It's too busy keeping you safe. But when the pressure drops, when you give yourself permission to not be okay, your system starts to relax. Just slightly, just enough to let a whisper in. And that whisper is the beginning. The beginning of softening, the beginning of opening, the beginning of feeling. Not all at once, but gradually. As your nervous system learns through repeated experience, I'm safe now. I can let go now. I can feel now. And nothing bad will happen. This is the beginning of softening, and it doesn't require force. It doesn't require discipline. It doesn't require trying harder. It just requires permission. Permission to be where you are. Permission to feel what you feel. Permission to need what you need. Without shame, without judgment, without the pressure to be anything other than exactly what you are right now. Empty, tired, numb, and that's okay. Because acknowledging that, truly acknowledging it without trying to fix it, is what creates safety. And safety is what your nervous system has been waiting for. Not forever. Just long enough to catch its breath. To realize the danger has passed. To understand that it's okay to come out now. To feel again. To live again. To be here again. Fully, openly alive. Part of coming back to life. Chapter 10. When small things start to matter again. The return doesn't feel dramatic. It feels quiet. You're going through your day. Same routine, same tasks, same everything. And then something shifts. Not big, not obvious, but something. Maybe it's the way the light hits the wall. And for the first time in months, you actually see it. Not just notice it, but see it. And it's beautiful. Or maybe it's a song. One you've heard 100 times. But this time it reaches you, not just your ears, but you. And you feel something, a stirring, a warmth, a small opening in your chest. Or maybe it's a conversation. With someone you talk to every day, but this time, you're actually there. Actually listening, actually present, and it matters. They matter. The moment matters. These are the subtle shifts you might overlook. Because they're not earth-shattering. They're not life-changing. They're just moments. Small moments where something inside you wakes up. Where the numbness cracks just slightly, and something real comes through. And you might dismiss it. You might think that was nothing, but it wasn't nothing. It was everything, because it means you're coming back. Not all at once, not in some grand awakening, but slowly, quietly, in small ordinary moments. This is why meaning returns slowly. Because meaning is not something you think your way into. It's something you feel your way into. And feeling returns gradually. In whispers, in glimpses, in moments where life stops being flat and starts having texture again. Depth, color, presence. And at first these moments are rare, brief, easy to miss. But if you pay attention, if you notice them, and don't dismiss them, they start to happen more often. The morning coffee starts to taste like something again. The walk outside starts to feel like something again. The conversation starts to mean something again. Not because anything changed externally, but because you're changing internally. You're softening, opening, returning, and slowly the world starts to come back into focus. Not as something you have to get through, but as something you're actually part of. This is the process, and it doesn't follow a timeline. It doesn't have milestones. It doesn't announce itself. It just unfolds at its own pace, in its own way. And your job is not to rush it, not to force it, not to measure it. Your job is just to notice it, to acknowledge the small shifts, to honor the quiet returns, to trust that even though it doesn't feel like much yet, something is happening. Something real, something important. You're coming back to life. And life doesn't return with fanfare. It returns with presence. With small moments of mattering. With the quiet realization that something inside you is no longer completely silent. This is enough, for now. Just this. Just noticing. Just being here for the small things as they start to matter again. Because that's where healing lives. Not in the dramatic moments, but in the small ones. The ones you almost miss. The ones that remind you I'm still here. I'm still feeling. I'm still alive. And that's everything. Chapter 11. You are not behind. You didn't fall behind. You went inward. While everyone else kept moving, you stopped. Not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Because you couldn't keep going the way you were going. Something inside you knew that, and so it shut down, not as failure, but as protection, as a necessary pause. A forced rest, a withdrawal from a pace that was unsustainable. And now, looking around, you see everyone else still moving, still progressing, still achieving. And you feel behind. Like you lost time, like you should be further along, like you wasted months or years being empty. But you didn't waste anything. You survived, and survival is not nothing. It's everything. It's what allowed you to still be here. Still reading this, still trying to find your way back. And that matters. More than any achievement, more than any milestone, more than anything you think you should have accomplished by now. This is releasing comparison, not just with others, but with yourself. With who you used to be, with who you thought you'd be by now. With the version of yourself that had energy and presence and didn't feel empty. That version is not who you are anymore. And that's okay, because you're not meant to be who you were. You're meant to be who you're becoming. And becoming takes time. It takes stillness. It takes going inward when everyone else is going outward. This is why healing looks like stillness. Because healing is not visible. It's not productive. It's not something you can measure or track or prove. It's internal. Quiet, slow. It looks like nothing is happening. But everything is happening. Your nervous system is recalibrating. Your body is releasing what it's been holding. Your heart is learning to feel again. That's not nothing, that's transformation. And transformation doesn't follow external timelines. It follows internal ones. Which means you can't rush it. You can't force it. You can't compare your process to anyone else's. Because your process is yours. Your timeline is yours. Your healing is yours. And it's unfolding exactly as it needs to. Not too slow, not too fast. Just right for you. This is allowing your own timing, which means letting go of the pressure to be healed by now. To be better by now. To be back to normal by now. There is no by now. There's just now. And now you're exactly where you need to be. Not behind, not ahead. Just here, in the middle of your own unfolding. And that unfolding might look like stillness, but it's not stagnation. It's integration. It's your system processing everything it couldn't process before. Every emotion you pushed down, every need you ignored, every moment you kept going when you should have stopped. It's all coming up now, not to hurt you, but to be released, and release takes time. It takes patience. It takes trust. Trust that even though you can't see progress, it's happening. Even though you can't measure healing, it's real. Even though you feel behind, you're exactly where you need to be. And everyone else, they're on their own path, with their own struggles, their own quiet battles, their own moments of emptiness they may or may not talk about. You're not seeing their full story, just the highlights, just the surface, just the part they show the world. And comparing your inside to their outside is a losing game. So instead you come back to yourself, to your own path, to your own pace, to the understanding that you're not behind. You're just different, and different is not wrong. It's just different, and maybe you're going inward. You're learning something they haven't learned yet, about rest, about feeling, about what it means to truly be with yourself. Not performing, not producing, just being. And that knowledge, that embodied wisdom, is worth more than any external achievement, because it's real, it's yours, and it will carry you forward in ways that rushing never could. Chapter 12. Building a life you can feel. A life you can feel is built gently, not all at once, not with grand gestures, not with a complete overhaul, but slowly, intentionally. One small choice at a time. You don't need to change everything. You just need to change something. One thing that brings you closer to presence, closer to truth, closer to what actually matters to you. Not what you think should matter, not what other people say matters, but what actually resonates, what actually feels real. And that might be different than it used to be. Because you're different now. You've been through something. The emptiness changed you, and what used to feel important might not anymore. The achievements, the busy schedule, the constant doing. It might all feel hollow now, like going through the motions. And that's okay, because you're learning to value something different. Not productivity, but presence. Not busyness, but being. Not noise, but depth. This is fewer demands, more truth. It's saying no to things that drain you. Even if they're good things. Even if other people want you to do them. Even if you used to say yes. You don't have to anymore, because you're learning that your energy is finite. Your capacity is real, and protecting it is not selfish. It's necessary. It's the difference between existing and living, between going through the motions and actually being here. And being here, truly being here, requires space. Space in your schedule, space in your mind, space in your life, for nothing, for rest, for quiet, for the moments where nothing is happening, and that's enough. This is presence over productivity. It's choosing to be fully here for a few things instead of partially here for everything. It's depth instead of breadth, quality instead of quantity, connection instead of performance. And it might mean your life looks smaller, quieter, less impressive from the outside, but from the inside, it feels real. It feels sustainable. It feels like yours, and that's what matters. Not how it looks, but how it feels. Because a life you can't feel is not worth living. Even if it looks perfect, even if it's full of accomplishments, even if everyone else is impressed. If you're not present for it, it's not yours. It's just a performance, and you're done performing. You're ready to live, really live. And that means choosing depth instead of noise. Choosing the things that actually move you, the conversations that feel real, the activities that bring presence, not just distraction, the relationships that allow you to be yourself, not a version of yourself. This is building a life you can feel. And it's not built once and done. It's built daily, with small choices. Do I say yes to this, or do I protect my energy? Do I fill this space, or do I let it be empty? Do I keep moving, or do I pause? And each time you choose presence over pressure, you're building. Each time you choose truth over performance, you're building. Each time you choose depth over noise, you're building a life that's actually yours. That you can actually feel, that you're actually present for. Not someday, but now. One moment at a time, one choice at a time, one gentle decision at a time. And slowly your life starts to feel different. Not perfect, not problem-free, but real, textured, felt. And that feeling, that presence, that aliveness is what you've been missing. Not happiness, not success, not external validation, just the simple, profound experience of being here, fully, presently, alive, and that's everything. Parvi, staying connected. Chapter 13. Emptiness doesn't mean you failed. This was never a flaw, it was a signal. The emptiness didn't come because you're weak, or broken, or doing life wrong. It came because you needed something. Space, rest, permission to stop, and you weren't giving it to yourself. So your system took it. By shutting down, by going numb, by creating the emptiness, not to punish you, but to protect you. To force the pause you wouldn't give yourself. This is reframing the experience, seeing it not as failure, but as message, not as breakdown, but as breakthrough. The breakthrough of realizing, I can't keep living like this. I can't keep pushing like this. I can't keep ignoring myself like this. Something has to change. And that realization, painful as it is the beginning of change. Real change, not surface-level adjustments, but deep transformation. In how you relate to yourself, how you honor your needs, how you protect your energy, how you live your life. The emptiness was the wake-up call, and now, you're awake, not in the enlightened, transcendent way, but in a real human way. Aware of your limits, aware of your needs, aware that you matter. That your well-being matters, that your presence in your own life matters. And you can't keep sacrificing that for everything else. This is what emptiness was protecting. Your capacity to feel, your capacity to be present, your capacity to live, not just exist. It shut you down before you burned out completely. It created distance before you broke. It gave you numbness before the pain became unbearable. And yes, emptiness is painful in its own way, but it's survivable, it's recoverable. It's the warning before the point of no return. And you heard it. You're here, you're acknowledging it. You're doing the work to come back, and that's not failure. That's wisdom, that's courage, that's you. Choosing yourself finally. Now comes gratitude without pressure. Not forced gratitude for things you're supposed to appreciate, but real gratitude for what the emptiness taught you. For the pause it gave you, for the wake-up call it delivered, for showing you what wasn't working, for forcing you to look inward, for making space for something truer. Something realer, something that's actually yours. You don't have to be grateful that it happened. You don't have to be glad you went through it, but you can acknowledge what it gave you. The awareness, the shift, the permission to stop performing and start being. That's not nothing, that's everything. And it didn't come despite the emptiness. It came because of it. Because sometimes we only change when we have to. When the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of transformation. And the emptiness was that pain. The signal that said this isn't working, you're not okay. Something needs to change. And now something is, you're changing. Not into someone else, but into more of yourself. The self that was buried under expectations. Under performance, under the belief that your worth was tied to what you do. You're digging that self out. And yes, it's hard. Yes, it's slow. Yes, some days you feel just as empty as before. But you're different now, because you know what the emptiness is. You know what it's telling you. You know what to do when it comes. Not to fix it immediately. Not to push through it, but to listen to it. To honor it. To give yourself what you need. Space, rest, presence, truth. And in doing that, you transform your relationship with emptiness. It's no longer something to fear. It's a signal, a messenger, a friend even. Telling you when you've gone too far, when you've pushed too hard, when you've abandoned yourself again, and instead of shaming yourself for it, you thank it. For the reminder, for the redirection, for bringing you back to yourself. Again and again, as many times as you need. Because this is not a one-time lesson. It's a lifelong practice. Learning to listen to yourself, learning to honor yourself, learning to stay connected to yourself. Even when the world is pulling you in 1,000 directions. Even when everyone wants something from you. Even when you're tired and overwhelmed and just want to shut down. You remember emptiness is not failure, it's signal. And you know how to listen now. Chapter 14. You can return here anytime. You're not empty now, you're open. There's a difference. Empty is absence. Nothing there, nothing felt, nothing real. But open? Open is space, space for feeling, space for presence, space for whatever comes. And you're here now. In that space, not filled up yet, not overflowing with joy, but open, receptive, available. And that's everything. Because from here you can feel again. You can connect again. You can live again, not the way you did before, but in a new way. A realer way, a way that honors what you learned in the emptiness, what you need, what matters, what's actually true for you. This is not a one-time state. You won't stay here forever. You'll drift, you'll disconnect. You'll go back into autopilot sometimes. That's being human. But the difference now is that you know the way back. You know what emptiness feels like. You know what it's telling you, and you know what to do. Not to fix it immediately, but to be with it, to listen to it, to give yourself what you need. This is how to recognize early signs next time. The subtle flatness, the slight disconnection, the moments where you're going through the motions but not really present. Before, you might have ignored these signs. Pushed through them, told yourself you were fine. But now you know better. Now you recognize them as invitations. To slow down, to check in, to come back to yourself. Before the emptiness deepens, before the numbness sets in, before you drift so far you can't find your way back easily. You catch it early, and you return to presence, to feeling, to yourself, and that return is always available, not just once, but over and over. Every moment is a chance to come back. Every breath is an opportunity to be here. Every pause is an invitation to reconnect. You don't have to be far away to return. You don't have to be completely lost to find yourself. You can return right now. In this moment, with one breath, 1 second of presence, one acknowledgement of what's actually here, and that's enough. That one moment, that one return, that one choice to be present instead of on autopilot, it's enough to shift something, to remind you that you're still here. Still feeling, still alive, and over time, those moments accumulate, those returns add up, and you spend more time present than absent, more time connected than disconnected, more time feeling than numb, not because you're trying harder, but because you're remembering easier, remembering who you are beneath all the doing, remembering what matters beneath all the noise. Remembering that you're allowed to be here fully without earning it. This is the gift of the emptiness, not the experience itself, but what it taught you, that you can come back, always. No matter how far you drift, no matter how numb you get, no matter how lost you feel, there's a way back, and it's not complicated. It's not a 10-step process. It's just presence, just being here, just this breath, this moment, this return. And ending with softness, not urgency, means knowing you don't have to have it all figured out right now. You don't have to never feel empty again. You don't have to be healed forever. You just have to remember that this space exists. This open, receptive, available space where you can be exactly as you are, empty or full, numb or feeling, lost or found, and it's all okay, all welcome, all part of being human. And you can return here anytime. Not because you have to, but because you're allowed to. Because this is home, this presence, this openness, this simple, profound experience of being here, with yourself, as yourself, for yourself, and that's enough. It always was. Closing moment. Stay with this feeling a little longer. You don't need to name it. It's enough that you're here. Really here. Not thinking about what's next, not planning your next move. Not rushing back into your life. Just here. With yourself, with this moment. With the quiet realization that something inside you is no longer completely silent. Can you feel it? That subtle presence, that gentle stirring, that whisper of something real. It's small. It's quiet. But it's there, and it's yours. Take one more breath slow, deep, all the way in, all the way out, and notice what's here. Not what should be here, not what you hope will be here someday, but what's actually here. Right now, in this moment. Maybe it's stillness, maybe it's a slight opening, maybe it's just the absence of the constant noise. Whatever it is, it's real, and it matters, because this is you, coming back, not to who you were, but to who you are, underneath everything, underneath the emptiness, underneath the performing, underneath the exhaustion. You, real, present, here, and you can come back to this moment anytime. When the world gets loud again, when the emptiness returns, when you feel yourself drifting, you can come back to this breath, to this presence, to this quiet knowing I'm still here, I'm still real, I'm still alive. And that's everything, that's always been everything. Not what you do, not what you achieve, not how well you perform. Just you, being here, being real, being yourself. That's enough. It always was, and now you know it. Not just intellectually, but in your body, in your bones, in the quiet place inside that's no longer completely silent. So stay here just a moment more, not because you have to, but because you can, because for once, there's nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do, no one else you need to be. Just this, just you, just now. And it's enough, you're enough. You always were.